A lot of people ask me what types of content, posts, for example, get engagement on LinkedIn. What makes successful content? What will make people attractive to your profile? And you have to say, getting this item right is probably the crux of your long-term success on LinkedIn. So what kind of things make a good post? Let me go into the posts on my profile to demonstrate what I mean. So from the home page, I'm going to click on me. The simplest way I find to go to my posts and activities, drop down to post and activity, and I click on the post column to see what we see under my recent posts. Now, I have to say, there are lots of discussions and debates amongst people like myself who do this for a living. How frequently should we post? And I have to say, I'm probably light on number of posts compared to many of my peers. Some people would post 2 or 3 times a day. Some people even post several times a day, 20 times a day. Frankly, I think that's noise in the community. So I'd rather post fewer pieces of content that have a relevance to my audience than continue to bombard them with content that may not have the same significant value. So my posting is to some extent based on how busy I am. If I've got a full diary and I'm extremely busy, which I'm pleased to say is quite often, then I can post as little as once a week with something that I think my audience might find valuable versus the need to feel as I have to publish something every day on LinkedIn. By the way, if I'm not posting every day, I am still spending a great deal of time engaging with my own content and the content of other people on LinkedIn. That's another part of the formula that will make your effectiveness work on LinkedIn. So anyway, going back to the point. So if I'm going to do some posts on LinkedIn, what makes a good post? And so here are a few little tips around the subject. So here I'm in the post column on my own profile. So here I did something earlier this week where I shared, in fact it was only yesterday, and I shared something that was a fake message that had appeared in my inbox from a connection, Gareth. Gareth very kindly allowed me to present the problem he'd had inside his profile messaging system, and he didn't know this had happened, in fact, till I called him. And we'll see that the number of likes and engagements on this post was in the order of, at this point, 6,500 views, 53 reactions, as LinkedIn calls it, and 56 comments. So in anybody's world, those are great figures. And I'm thinking that the reason that was interesting was it was useful. It's had an intrinsic value to the audience because there's something in it which everybody could benefit from. But let's just see how this was broken down a little bit more. So what I've done here is I've very carefully crafted a line of copy on the first line of this, which stands alone as a piece of intelligence in the space of LinkedIn. And then I've allowed myself a line space, and then I continue the message further on. And you'll notice that it quickly shows the see more at the end. So what I've got to have done before I expect people to click see more is I need to grab their attention, and I often do that by either making a statement, often asking a question in order to grab their attention before they're likely to click see more. And of course, as soon as a person clicks see more, the algorithms are stimulated by that activity, and therefore LinkedIn's sort of wakes up the fact that this post is interesting. People are clicking on it, they're clicking on see more, which has got an algorithmic push, and therefore the more people that do that, the more your post will get amplified to a greater, wider audience on LinkedIn. That's what creates the attraction. If it doesn't get attraction fairly quickly, particularly in the first hour on LinkedIn, then it may not have the opportunity to be as attractive and go as viral, small v, small viral as it might otherwise do. So if somebody clicks on more, they move into more space. Now, what are some of the things about this particular type of post? You'll notice that I break it up quite a great deal. I think white space counts for a lot on LinkedIn. We don't resonate, we don't sort of easily see blocks of text on LinkedIn. And if we come across content which is really paragraph heavy, bearing in mind that most people are in transient mode when looking at this content, they're probably going to gloss over that content because they don't have the time to read it. And if they see big blocks of copy, they're probably going to move on from it. So I feel that breaking it up, having lots of white space, having simple sentences makes a reader read on and is more likely to get their attention. I often use the methodology at the end of a post of asking a question that invites debate. You know, am I on the right lines? What do you think this? Have you experienced this? And that gets the audience feeling as though they're invited to make a comment, and of course that comment then happens in the feed. LinkedIn's algorithms wake up to the fact there's a debate going on here, and this becomes really, really powerful material on LinkedIn. Before we leave this particular example, you notice I've added 3 hashtags. 3 hashtags are actually advised by LinkedIn as to be the optimum number of hashtags on a post. So I pick the hashtags that are suitable for the content. I don't necessarily ride on the back of what I know will be a successful hashtag. And I find that sometimes to be in a community of people which is only small, following a very defined hashtag, can actually give me more benefit than following a more widely generic hashtag like business, marketing. They're probably too vague, and there's probably several 100,000 people in each of those hashtag communities, which therefore the chance of my bit of content finding its way into that world is fairly limited. So actually a combination perhaps of some more widely used hashtags and a more narrow field hashtag, I feel could stimulate the algorithms to get your content found. So just scrolling down here for a second, here I've shared something from a colleague, Andy Foote, who shared an excellent article about how to locate LinkedIn's data behind how many characters you can have in fields, from your about section to all over the place. A wonderful article, and I turned that into a piece of content myself, and you notice here that I actually referenced Andy Foote above what you might call the fold. So in the 3rd line, I've actually attributed Andy's content in this field because it's really valuable. I don't want it to look for 1 minute like I'm sort of pinching Andy's content, and I want to give due deference to Andy having posted this. And that's the same for all my competitors. We share great content together, and that's a really powerful thing. I can't know everything there is to know on LinkedIn, and I learn from people all the time. So when I click see more, it tells people what they're going in to see, and I've gone and added the link to Andy's webpage, which allows people to go read more greater content. But note, in the delivery and manufacture of this piece of content, I didn't post the link with this link embedded in the first iteration of the post. I went back in and edited it. So I clicked on the 3 dots at the top of the post, having sent the post out, and added the link in afterwards to make sure that it gets around LinkedIn's algorithms, which suppress any post which contains an external link in its original format. A little bit hard to explain, but I hope you get that. I might go into another blog at some point to explain that a little bit more. So in this instance, that's the kind of post. You'll notice lots of white space again, making a statement at the beginning, and we've got hashtags, interesting picture, and we get a certain amount of views. Just to finish on, sometimes, do you know what? It's useful in a post to not always be factual, not always be business orientated. What makes a successful post is sometimes a degree of vulnerability, either on your part or on that of the piece of news that you're sharing. And in this instance, recently affected in my community by the flooding in West Yorkshire, and particularly around Calderdale, I kind of wanted to shout out to my community and saying, sometimes you have to ask for help, folks. And I've just briefly summarised the extent of the flooding in the area, and I've actually put a link in there to enable people to go and donate a gift to something which might trigger their emotions. And in this instance, 42 reactions, 20 comments later, and 3,750 views. We've got to a point where we've got something interesting happening. So yes, the secret to success on LinkedIn is increasingly being personal. It's perhaps a little bit of vulnerability. You can't do that all the time, I don't think. I think that would be forced. But just have a nice balanced view and range of things that you're sharing and liking and putting out there. Always based on a strategy of relevance to your audience sector. Don't be all over the place too widely, because I don't think that will serve your interests very well. So there's just a few things today on how to maximise your value through posting. Hope that's been of value to you, and good luck in the future on your posts.